We're going to head to We the North. Check in on the Raptors. Michael Grange covers the Raptors for Rogers Sports Network in Canada, where the Toronto Raptors tonight looking to take a 2-0 series lead. You know, the last time the Raptors won a Game 1 at home, it was a while ago. They typically lose Game 1 in a series. We'll see how much different, though, this Raptors team is from all these other ones that have had playoff failures. Michael, welcome to the program. How are you, pal?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. I got to start with that. You know, that crowd the other day, it seemed like it almost took the Sixers off guard a little bit, and it seems that there is a renewed sense of confidence with the Raptors fan base almost, knowing that we haven't seen this motion picture before. It's almost like they knew what was going to happen in years past. We got a good team, nice regular season, early exit. But it feels like the organization and the fans think that this is different.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it was funny, just in the first round series, the Raptors lost Game 1, kind of played fairly ordinary and lost on a last-second shot by Orlando. And the next day, and Kyle Lowry was scoreless in that very first game of the playoffs. And Kyle Lowry's had some great playoffs for the Raptors. He's had some other playoffs where he's just sort of been really struggled to score for weeks at a time. And so he goes scoreless in Game 1. The Raptors, of course, lose Game 1, as is the tradition. At that point, they were 2-14 all time in Game 1. It's just crazy. And then Lowry gets to the line early on, and he misses his first free throw. and the crowd kind of, it was almost like that sound you get in like a kid's gym, you know, when Johnny's on the line and he's kind of struggling, and you know the parents are like, "Come on, Johnny!" It was like this is $100 million player. He had 20,000 people kind of, "Come on, Kyle, you can do it!" And he makes his next free throw, and the Raptors blow out Orlando, and they've won 5 straight games since. And Lowry's been great, the team's been great, and I think from that moment on, like that was old Raptors. That was, oh my God, anything can happen to these guys. And they've just were great against Orlando. They were just outstanding against Philly on Saturday night. And I think that the team is legitimately confident. They're recognizing that they've got something good going on here, and I think the fan base is feeling it too.
Yeah, how much has Siakam really completed this team? I mean, because if you have Lowry as the number 2 guy and you have Kawhi, still very good, probably have a lot of confidence, but how much did adding him and almost blossoming into that Robin to Kawhi's Batman change the perception of this team?
Well, the perception is interesting because I think a lot of people are just getting to know Pascal Siakam, but he's changed the reality of this team, and for exactly those reasons. And this is just an incredible NBA story. This guy was the 27th pick, kind of late to basketball, was a post player at New Mexico State, you know, or he had zero pedigree, and you know, really projected to be an interesting pick, maybe an energy guy. That was sort of where people thought Pascal Siakam would be, just a guy who could kind of switch around and disrupt, and yeah, he'd be a nice pick for late in the draft. And at the end of last year, he started showing a little more. And you know, he was with the Raptors, had a really good second unit. He had a lot of freedom there and was very productive in his minutes. And this year, he wasn't even going to start out at training camp. OG Anunoby was, and he had a personal issue and has had injury issues all year, frankly. And Siakam stepped in, and he would not be denied. And he has the great story is not so much that he's improved from last year to this year. He'll win the Most Improved Player award. He's basically doubled and then some most of his production. But he's improved as the season has gone along. And the last thing we were wondering about is, okay, what's he going to do in the playoffs? Well, he is commanding double teams. He's commanding help. He's managing double teams. He's putting up huge numbers. And he is an all-star caliber player without a doubt. And as you guys know, when you have 2 wing players that can not really be covered one-on-one, we know Kawhi can't, that is an absolute monster to manage, and the Raptors have that in their favor right now.
Speaking of monsters to manage, that's typically Joel Embiid, but he had his worst game of the playoffs. He was, missed 13 of 18, had just 16 points. And Marc Gasol has given him problems going back to his Memphis days. And Valanciunas always gave him problems. So a lot of people were like, this is going to be interesting. But Gasol seems to me, Kawhi is going to give you what he gives you. Siakam, he seems like he has just developed into this bright, star. But Gasol, to me, almost seems like the boogeyman to Embiid. And if somebody can be the boogeyman to Embiid, that's a checkmate, man, because Embiid doesn't play well. This team's got no shot.
I think you're right. And, Marc Gasol has been an absolute revelation. And if I was to pick one reason, Siakam obviously is a big one. But why, I can sit here and confidently say, yeah, I can see this team being in an NBA Finals. I can see this team winning an NBA Finals. It's Marc Gasol. And he is, the level of Kyle Lowry, as anyone would tell you, is one of the smartest guys in the NBA, both on and off the floor. He is a high IQ player. And I think Marc Gasol might be an even higher IQ player. Like, it is remarkable. Those two guys in the box scores every night, between them, they might have 12, 16 points. And, you keep thinking Gasol's going to have these great assist numbers because the ball comes in out of his hands so quick. And yet, not necessarily. He is the grease in the wheel. He makes everything flow. And defensively, he's very healthy right now. And it wasn't long ago, this guy is a multiple-time All-NBA defender, a former Defensive Player of the Year. He was a little hobbled last year and a points this year, and he is really moving very, very well. And so you've got like a 290-pound guy who moves a lot quicker than people think. He's really long. He is a Gasol, as we know. And he's a smarter basketball player than Joel Embiid. Like, it's no insult to Joel Embiid. It's just a fact. And he has got, I think Embiid's used to just overpowering guys and being quicker than them and not really having to understand how to manage a guy who's going to anticipate everything you do and has the bulk to match it when he needs to. And that's Marc Gasol. And I think you guys are right. If Joel Embiid can't figure this matchup, if Brett Brown can't find to make it easier for Joel Embiid, the series will be a short one.
Was this a series that Toronto was very confident with this matchup going in?
I think they were cautiously optimistic, I guess I would say. I mean,
they've owned the Sixers, and especially, and we know Brett Brown in the beginning, they weren't really interested in winning a whole heck of a lot. But even when this team has turned it around, Toronto has owned them, even though it's different incarnations of the roster.
Yes, I mean, I would say this last year at the end of the season when the Sixers were on that run, I want to believe that the Raptors played them at some stage, and this was the 59-win Raptors from last year. Different team, of course, but a good regular season team, and the Sixers just crushed them. And they tore through the first round. So I think there's a very healthy respect for the Sixers, and it was in part because of Joel Embiid. The Raptors went out and made the Gasol trade. They're like, we got to figure out something with this guy, and they figured it out. So I don't think they came into this series going, we got this. I think they felt confident. They certainly respect the Sixers' talent, and what's really fascinating. It's almost like a basketball IQ test in a way. Like you go 1 through 5, and at each position, the Raptors and the Sixers match up pretty well. Mm-hmm. Like Ben Simmons at point guard versus Kyle Lowry. Well, a lot of people would take Ben Simmons, right? I mean, he's one of the most talented guys in the league. Joel Embiid, Marc Gasol. On paper, you'd probably take Joel Embiid. In fact, you would for sure. Jimmy Butler, if there's any player you thought that could kind of sort of match up with Kawhi Leonard, it might be Jimmy Butler. Right. And yet, the difference that I'm seeing in this team, and I think why the Raptors do have confidence, is the Raptors' pieces all complement each other. Those five starters all sort of bring out the best in the next guy beside them. And I think a lot of people in Philly might agree, but your thoughts would be interesting. Those 5 Philly starters, as good as each of them all are, they kind of overlap. They get in each other's way a little bit. And I think that's why the Raptors are the better team.
Well, and Michael, that's a point that we brought up a lot leading into not only this series, but these playoffs is Toronto has played together essentially all year long, and Philly played 12 games together. And you see those in key moments, I think, in series like this.
You know what? I'm just going to correct you a little bit on that because the actual profile of these two teams is identical. Because, as you know, Gasol was added at the trade deadline.
Yep.
And we got Kawhi Leonard, load management, famously. And the two starting units, each of them, amazingly, played 161 minutes in the regular season together.
Huh.
So they had an equal amount of experience going into the playoffs, and they've each been, the numbers are equally dominant almost. But here's where the difference is when you look at those Raptors 1 through 5 starters, and you look at them in terms of their experience, their championship pedigree, their overall basketball IQ. I mean, Kyle Lowry's no one's idea of a great NBA athlete, but he is a great NBA mind. And Danny Green, same thing. Kawhi Leonard, same thing. Marc Gasol, he might be the most beautiful mind of all. And I think that's really, we were just talking about this with the Raptors yesterday, as much as they haven't had all that time together, they're like the study group with all the nerdy kids. They're just figuring it out way faster than everybody else.
Michael, what would your percentage chance be that Kawhi Leonard has a residency in Canada next year?
I've been as high as 70-30, and I'm probably maybe 60-40, 50-50. I mean, I would say this, the relationship between the franchise and the player has been very, very good. Kawhi Leonard has said and has been asked multiple times about how well he's been treated from a medical standpoint. There's a high level of trust. It's showing their whole strategy worked out perfectly with his health and where he is now. And he does not take that for granted. He said early in the year he did not know he would get to this level again. So that's the biggest piece, and it's very important. They can also offer him the most money. So I think that's going to get some consideration. And I think the team is obviously very, very good and could do some special things and could come back intact next year. So I think that's going to all work in the Raptors' favor. But if Kawhi Leonard says, and he's a different kind of dude, as we all know, if he just says, you know what, I just want to go to California, and the Clippers would be happy to have him, I don't think there's anything the Raptors can do about it.
All right. Well, that means the Raptors really need to make a deep run with him if he's only a one-year guy. If not, this Raptors team is going to be a problem for a while. Michael Grange from Rogers Sportsnet in Canada for the Game 2 of Sixers Raptors, and we have it for you tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis on the call. Cover starts at 8 p.m. Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.